In every corner of Africa, stories breathe, tales buried in dust, whispered through firelight. You're about to hear one of them. Welcome to African Horror Stories. Nigerian Folklore, Abiku, the child who dies and returns. In the dusty, vibrant Yoruba town of Igbaye, nestled deep in Nigeria, lived Aina, a woman whose beauty and spirit was slowly being extinguished by an invisible, relentless enemy. Aina had endured the most intimate horror a mother can know, the terrifying cycle of the Abiku, the child born to die. Aina's first 3 daughters arrived perfect, cherished and full of life, only to be snatched away by sudden, inexplicable sickness before they saw their 3rd birthday. The sorrow was not just loss, it was a cruel, malignant mockery. Each time Aina felt her soul splinter, knowing she was merely a temporary vessel for a spirit that had a contract in the spirit world, a vow to return to the heavens after tasting her love and savoring her despair. After the 3rd burial, Aina's grief was so profound it bordered on madness. She performed every ritual known to her people. She wept at the river, made offerings to the ancestors, and sought the protection of the village priests. Yet the whispers of the community offered little comfort. "It is an Abiku," they said, "a malicious spirit playing a vicious game." For 3 long, hollow years, Aina waited. She allowed herself a fragile, cautious hope when she became pregnant again. She prayed not just for a child's life, but for a new, peaceful soul. When her 4th child was born, a beautiful girl she named Abeni, meaning "we asked for her," Aina felt an immense rush of love. She focused only on Abeni's health, refusing to let fear take root. But the Abiku is a master of torment, and it leaves familiar signs. One humid afternoon, while braiding Abeni's hair, Aina noticed it. Just behind the girl's left ear was a tiny, unmistakable birthmark, a map of raised skin that perfectly matched the mark she had sworn she had seen on the previous child. The blood drained from her face. The horrifying truth crashed down. This was not a new soul. This was the same ancient spirit returned again to destroy her. The knowledge poisoned her joy. She was trapped in the most intimate horror, loving the beautiful living form of the spirit that was systematically dismantling her life. She began to watch Abeni, not with tenderness, but with rising terror. When the girl would occasionally fall into a feverish sleep, a small, chilling smile would play on her lips, a smile that looked far too knowing, far too old for a child so young. Aina would sit, trembling, staring at the faint birthmark, sometimes feeling a strange cold pulsation radiating from it, convinced the Abiku was laughing at her pain. Aina could not speak the truth to her husband. Her words would sound like the ravings of a mind broken by grief. With Abeni suddenly growing weaker, Aina knew her time was running out. She rushed to the most respected Babalawo, a diviner and priest whose sight could pierce the veil of the spirit world. The Babalawo listened to her frantic confession, his face grave as he cast his divination chains. "The Abiku is playing with you, Aina," he confirmed. It has a contract to return to the spirit market, and every time it comes, your powerful mother's love cushions its journey back to the heavens. It binds a stronger rope of grief to your soul with each departure." Aina wept, begging for a way to break the bond. "I love her, Babalawo. I can't bear another loss." "You cannot defeat it with love, for that is what it craves. The spirit knows your heart is its easy path home. The only way to stop the Abiku is to make its human existence undesirable. It must be rejected. It must be denied the comfort it needs to return in peace." The price of this salvation was devastating. Aina had to take a vow to treat the child coldly. She had to publicly and privately reject the spirit child, refusing it comfort and affection. She had to deny it the love that was its ultimate reward, making its life so unpleasant that the spirit, upon death, would refuse to enter this mother's womb ever again. It was a choice between maternal devotion and cold, calculated cruelty. To save herself and her future, she had to deny the child she loved. Aina returned home, her heart a block of ice. She was now trapped between two fears: the terror of losing another child, and the horror of deliberately hurting the one she had. She began the cruel charade. She refused to hold Abeni when the girl cried. She fed her, bathed her, and tended to her needs with cold, necessary efficiency, but she would not look into her eyes, not sing the lullabies that had comforted the previous daughters. The moment Abeni reached up for a comforting touch, she would turn away, the lie burning in her chest.
The result was immediate and terrifying. The Abiku spirit, angered by the rejection, fought back. It did not simply grow weak. It became an active, malevolent presence in the house, waging war on Aina's sanity. When Abeni was asleep, a profound, localized coldness would settle around Aina. She began to hear whispers, the names of her 3 lost girls, soft and high-pitched, drifting from Abeni's silent crib. She would run to the crib only to find the girl sleeping soundly, a faint, unsettling smile on her lips. The torment escalated. Aina would hear phantom footsteps following her through the house, always just out of sight, always mocking her silence. Doors she had closed would slowly creak open, revealing the empty, dark hallway. Her shadow on the wall sometimes seemed to distort, stretching into a lean, long shape that was not her own. Aina was the only witness. Her husband saw only a quiet, melancholy child and a wife driven to exhaustion by grief. The Abiku was systematically breaking Aina, forcing her to choose between keeping the vow of rejection or surrendering to madness. The fear was no longer that the child would die, but that the spirit would stay, haunting her forever, even after Abeni's body was gone. The spirit was forcing a bargain. Break your vow, or I will take your mind as a final cruel prize. The pressure reached its breaking point. Abeni fell gravely ill, her fever rising cold and fast. Aina knew the spirit was preparing its departure. The time for the Abiku's journey back to the market had arrived. She stood over the crib, the weight of the Babalawo's mandate, the need for rejection, crushing her. The fever spiked. Abeni's small body began to twitch, and Aina knew the spirit was pulling on its spiritual tether, waiting for the mother's final moment of broken resolve, that burst of loving weeping that would send it home in comfort. Aina stopped weeping. She realized that to continue the psychological warfare would only guarantee a fifth return. To make a loving surrender would be to guarantee her own final absolute demise. She had to make the ultimate choice, one that the Abiku spirit would never anticipate. In a voice cracked with spiritual exhaustion, Aina made her final prayer, but it was not for the child's life. She spoke to the ceiling, to the spirit world, to the cruel entity residing in her daughter. I renounce the battle. I renounce the wisdom of men. I accept the fullness of my sorrow and the sorrow of the past. I surrender this grief to the will of God and the fate of the ancestors. She made a spiritual vow. She would publicly renounce the belief that her child was an Abiku and accept all 4 previous losses simply as destiny. She gave up the fight. She chose unconditional, public acceptance and grief rather than the calculating, fearful rejection the Babalawo had commanded. It was an act of brutal, spiritual humility. The fever immediately broke. The tremors stopped. Abeni lay still, her breath evening out into the shallow sleep of exhaustion, not departure. The Abiku, seeing the spiritual surrender, the public breaking of its cycle, not by rejection, but by the mother's willingness to take the full, unvarnished weight of the grief, had lost its pleasure. It knew Aina's soul was no longer vulnerable to its torment. When Abeni finally woke, the mocking light in her eyes was gone. In its place was the innocent, bewildered gaze of a small human girl. Aina had her daughter, not because she was victorious, but because she had surrendered the terms of the battle. She had traded the spiritual lie of rejection for the agonizing, permanent emotional scar of her acceptance. And for the rest of her days, Aina guarded her daughter, knowing the spirit would not return, for the torment it craved had been permanently neutralized by a mother's ultimate, agonizing surrender.
That's all for today. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting like. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe for more. You can watch another video of mine right here. See you next time.